Welcome to Relationships at Work, the guide for emerging leaders to create a workplace we love. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher. I'm a communications and leadership nerd with a couple of decades of experience in both of those fields. But what else I have is a heap of curiosity on how we all can lead and work together to improve the employee experience. This show, this one right here, is a great resource to help with that. Every week on the show, I talk with local or global leaders on topics that are here to help you to improve the workplace. We've tackled negativity, reimagining leadership, mental health, diversity, communication, activism, burnout. So many topics. Please check out the library of episodes and brilliant experts who share their expertise with us on how we can improve the employee experience, improve our leadership, career planning, and so forth. And now, as an added bonus, I'm sharing an additional episode every week pulled from the pages of our Raw Note newsletter, which you can still subscribe to. It's just a quick and valuable bit of information on top of our regular show. Consider it a cherry, if you will. And for this week's Raw Note that I'm passing along to you, we don't know the meaning of the word. As emerging leaders, we have to know what words mean. We have to. You'd think it's self-explanatory, but it is not. We need to know them not only for ourselves, but for those we're communicating to and trying to connect with. We can't just use words without thinking. I learned a long time ago that communications involves two people, the sender and the receiver. It's not only about what is said, but also in how it is received. And if we don't consider both, we aren't really communicating. We might be broadcasting, but we're not connecting. This is especially true in the workplace. A 2014 Salesforce report found that 86% of employees and executives believe that lack of collaboration and ineffective communication are the thing that's responsible for workplace failures. In my experience, anytime I've seen a workplace problem, issue, and you follow the path from issue to root, it's usually a communications problem. So it's pretty important that we make those connections and get our communication right. So we have to make sure we're using our words properly. But we don't always. And I'm going to use an example. Safe space. Okay? It's on posters. It's on onboarding materials. It's in DEI training. But we can't just say the words like it's a script. My mom even told me recently, now she's long retired, but she still is stung by a former boss who would repeatedly talk about the psychological safety of the organization he led. How this place he was in charge of was a place of honesty and open dialogue. Welcome to a safe space. Those are all the right words. We've heard them before. But there was a problem. He had no concept of what those words actually meant. Saying the words doesn't make them true. The culture of his employees was just completely the opposite. They weren't encouraged to speak truth to power. They didn't feel like they could be honest or open. It wasn't safe. But he sure liked using those phrases, though. As leaders, we are going to use terms like psychological safety and safe spaces. It's vital we actually know what they mean to those we are communicating to and what goes into making them possible. So let's stick with safe space as an example. We as emerging leaders can ask ourselves these questions before we start using these buzzwords. Has safe space in this workplace actually been defined? Do we know what that definition is? Have policies been put in place that support and promote a safe work environment? Are employees encouraged to report any incidents of harassment, discrimination, or other forms of misconduct? And what happens with that information? Are employees provided with training on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Is there a clear code of conduct that sets expectations for behavior in the workplace? And what happens if not, including for executives? Now, you can replace safe space for any other word. How about work-life balance? Has that term been defined? Have policies been put in place that support and promote it? Is there an example of what it looks like at work that you want to use as a demonstration? Are staff provided with expectations and frameworks to guide the work-life balance conversation? For the benefit of our employees and their mental health, just saying words without knowing what they mean in that workplace, that culture, under that leadership, doesn't make them true. It just makes us as leaders look like we don't know what we're talking about and parroting what we've been told or what we see on a poster. And that is the opposite of building trust and fostering relationships at work. So before you set the table, before you try to provide an experience, understand what the experience is that you're trying to provide. Again, I'll use the example of safe space. And then try to understand the employees and their perception of that word. Again, we'll go back to what I said at the top. Communications is not only what you're saying, but how it is understood by those you're communicating with. And their perspective, their experience with those words may be very different from what you think or what you're trying to impose on the workplace. And understanding that will allow you to use better language, will allow you to pick the right words to better connect with those you're trying to connect with. And that's a relationship at work worth fighting for. And that will do it for another Raw Note episode of Relationships at Work, the Emerging Leader's Guide to Creating a Workplace We Love. I'm your host, Russel Lolacher, and if you've enjoyed either these mini episodes or our conversation with experts about leadership, employee experience, workplace culture, and so on, share it along with those you think may get something out of this podcast. Just one person, just share them a link from the YouTube channel or this podcast, what have you. It gets the word out and it helps a little bit, and I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Have a great day.